read the Bible, do a story. Like we get so deep, and you sometimes think like one verse isn't going to mean anything and one verse means everything, right?
Absolutely. And we're barely on Second Samuel.
We're barely on Second Samuel part 2, which is David's cover up, and it's Second Samuel chapter 11 verse 6 through 13. And once Bathsheba told David that she was pregnant, now what happens in verse 6 through 13, David tried to get Uriah to go home to his wife so everyone would
Right.
think the baby was Uriah's, right? So he tried to get Bathsheba's husband that was out fighting the war to come home, so he could sleep with his wife and his sin would not be found out, right? It would be like, oh, it's not David's baby, it's Uriah's baby.
Yeah. How
So
will they
once,
know?
yeah, they're not gonna find out.
How
They're
will
not
they
gonna know,
know?
right?
Yeah.
So one sin led to deception. The life lesson here is sin rarely remains isolated. It tends to multiply. So when we do one sin, we think it's done there, but then it just multiplies, keeps going. One lie becomes another lie becomes another lie. And one of the related scriptures that I found on this was Proverbs chapter 28 verse 13, and it says, whoever conceals sin does not prosper. The one
Hmm.
who
Man,
confesses finds mercies, finds freedom. So I don't know,
yep.
Lisa, do you want to go ahead and read Proverbs chapter 28 verse 13 exactly word for word to see what that says?
Yeah, what's it, 28 verse 13?
Yeah.
Alright, hold on, I'm getting there.
So we're gonna read
Okay,
that. Joshua's gonna read that now, who talks about that whoever conceals sin does not prosper.
right, so it says, Proverbs 28:13, it says, people who conceal their sins will not prosper, but if they confess and turn from them, they will receive mercy.
That part.
Amen. So right there it says the one who confesses finds mercy, finds freedom. And
Mm-hmm.
here what I concentrated on, what makes Uriah remarkable, right? Because David goes and tries and finds Uriah to get him home to sleep with his wife. But what makes Uriah's character remarkable? Um it shows us when we go back to Second Samuel chapter 11 verse 6 to 13, it shows that Uriah is loyal to his fellow soldiers. He's honorable. He's self-sacrificing. He's more righteous in this moment than David. So I'll ask you guys. Well, I'm going to say a little bit of the story, right? So David goes on to tell one of his people, hey, go get Uriah out of the war, bring him back, make him sleep with his wife, let him feel comfortable. That way it's not going to be known that I slept with his wife and got her pregnant. Everybody's going to think Uriah slept with his wife, she got pregnant, she's going to have a baby, all is good. So a question for my fellow cousins here, why is Uriah one of the most tragic and admirable figures in this story? What do you think makes him one of the most tragic and admirable figures? Because as we continue reading, as Sohaida read the whole Bible verses in the beginning, right? We find out that Uriah, or I don't know if that went to the second chapter, but it showed that although David called Uriah to get out of the war to come and sleep with his wife, Uriah was the kind of man that came back and he's like, no, king, I'm here and I'll do whatever you ask, but I'm not going to go home and relax and go sleep with my wife and go drink wine or do whatever. Hell, I'll even drink wine with you and probably get drunk, but I'm not going to go and relax because I have soldiers out there fighting for our lives. And what is right, and I'm going to do what's right. I can't relax. I need to be on point. So, why is Uriah one of the most tragic and admirable figures in this story?
I think it's tragic and admirable because it says it doesn't just call him Uriah, right? It says that he's Uriah the Hittite. And I think that that's important because the Lord wants us to pay attention to that detail that he wasn't an Israelite, right? He was probably converted into their faith, but he wasn't one of them, which is, one important, David's people, kind of like what Joshua was talking about. The prostitute woman yesterday. What was her name,
Rahab,
Joshua?
with Rahab.
Right.
Yeah.
Rahab.
Mhm. Where she
Yeah.
she learned their customs and things like that. And it's crazy too, because you know that his name means the Lord is my light. Right? I had that written down in my Bible that Uriah's name meant the Lord is my light. So here is this foreigner, right? Because again, he's not an Israelite, and he's demonstrating
Mm.
more faithfulness to God and the kingdom, while David, who's the anointed king, he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, right? So it just shows you that that's something that's admirable, because his loyalty to God's mission is what eventually ended up exposing David's shortcomings.
Amen.
Right.
He was so loyal and honorable. His integrity was such a contrast to David's actions, right? So
Mhm.
David was acting in such a way, and Uriah was just acting the total opposite, even when he didn't have to, because at the end of the day, you would think that David should be acting a certain way because he committed this sin that he knows he did. And here goes Uriah that hasn't committed any sin, and he's still trying to be honorable.
Yes. Joshua, did you want to add something?
No, I always seen this story and you can see it, but I feel like the Lord's showing me, you see two kinds of believers here, right? You see the believer who's doing the work of God willingly, committedly,
Mhm.
faithfully, loyalty. His loyalty is there, right? He's doing what he's supposed to be doing. But I feel like here you also have the other believer who unfortunately in this moment, was covered in sin. He allowed the darkness in his heart to get the best of him, and you see that there are going to be sometimes believers that are lost like this, right? And what I was just seeing right here was that they would even try to go and snuff out your light, right? Because they see that you have a light upon you, and they try to snuff out your light. Like, because I didn't even know that Uriah meant that his name was the light, and when you said that, I felt like the Spirit was
I
showing me.
didn't
It
know
was
that
like
either. Yeah.
I didn't know that his light was snuffed out. Literally, his light was snuffed out because this man was covered in darkness, and darkness does not like the light. So you see how the darkness is trying to over. You would think that the darkness overcame the light because he covered this stuff up, but then, you see fast forward, that when Nathan the prophet comes in, the light is the power of God's light, right? Again, revealing the darkness, revealing the truth, right? Avenging the one who was following the Lord, right? That's why I'm just thinking the Lord, the vengeance really is the Lord's, because even though this man was a Hittite and he was not an Israelite, and maybe this was one of the reasons why David felt I could sleep with this man's wife because he's a Gentile, right? He's not really one of our chosen people. That God really doesn't look, and He doesn't care whether you are ethnic or whatever. He doesn't look at any of that. He looks at your heart, and He looks at whether
Amen.
you are willing to serve Him, or whether you're willing to do the work for Him, or whether your heart is for Him, right? And so I think it's just tragic because again, you see a man who is loyal to a kingdom, loyal to a king, right? Loyal to people, loyal to a fault, right? Trying to
Mhm.
do the right thing, and he got done wrong for trying to
Yeah.
do the right thing, right?
And
How many
He even tells David, like, bro, like, how can I enjoy going home when my brothers are out there, getting killed?
Right.
Meanwhile, David is doing exactly that, right? And David was the one that was supposed to be with the soldiers, because in the springtime, what do kings do? They're supposed to be at war,
War.
you
Exactly.
know?
They're supposed to go and fight.
Yeah. So that
Amen.
contrast is just beautiful, I think.
Amen.
Because Sohaira edits all this, Joshua. Is she stuck on your screen? Cause she's
And
like,
I,
Hey,
oh,
you
I'm
see
gonna
the
take a
light?
picture now so you could
You see the
see.
light?
yes,
I see it. It's like
You overcome the darkness.
amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank
and
God.
that's
See,
the
look at me.
funny
I'm a
thing.
dark person. I'm wicked, but thank God that I'm covered by Him.
No, you're
Amen.
not. So this morning I
Amen.
listened to the whole church and it was just wonderful.